Our first item on the agenda tonight is move the acceptance of the minutes from 4/4/22.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for any comments from town board members or department heads.
Just one follow-up from a prior meeting, Mark. We had spoken before about the status of the drainage projects in Luther Forest, and I know our team has done some work and given some feedback on it. I did have a resident request that we get a workshop scheduled on that. I know we have a lot on our calendar with the comp plan upcoming, but I just want to remind on that, so we can keep that front of mind and get together and keep that rolling. So
Sure.
that's all I have.
Thanks, Tim. I just had a few things. Number one, I wanted to just announce to those that do not know, we will have our Armed Forces Day Parade May 21st this year. And we have a Grand Marshal that's a World War II vet, as I understand. So that'll be good, and it'd be good to have that parade again. It's been a few years since we've had it. The other thing, just real briefly, we did have a drug take-back in our parking lot on Saturday, and that was sponsored by the Sheriff's Department. And I also learned afterwards it was also in partnership with Kerry Warner. So I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for doing that. I guess I got quite a few old prescription drugs and such we encourage people now not to flush those down a toilet, not to throw them away, but actually dispose of them at an event such as what we had. And from what I gather, that was a complete success. That's all that I had. With the exception of one more thing, this has been quite popular too. There's been a lot of talk about what used to be the bulk pickup. And a lot of residents have been emailing me, they've been calling, they've been doing the same with other board members, they've been doing it with our highway department. I did mention at our last meeting that I was trying to find some method of helping folks that, especially the elderly, but not exclusively the elderly, folks that may not be able to track down a friend that has a pickup truck, any means to basically get their bulk waste to our dumpsters here in Town Hall parking lot. So in any event, I've been talking with Peter Shaw, the fire chief from Malta Ridge Volunteer Fire Company, for the last several weeks. I just confirmed it over the weekend that they will be available, the fire company, to help folks that truly do need the assistance. And I ask that it is just those folks that do need assistance. They are volunteers. They're doing this out of the goodness of their heart and really stepping up, and I really appreciate that they are doing that. But Chief Shaw said that if folks do have a need, they can call the Malta Ridge Volunteer Fire Company non-emergency number, and that's what's key, non-emergency number. Don't dial 911. And that number is 518-584-6155. You may not get an actual person, but please leave a voicemail. And Chief Shaw said that they will respond to folks. So there is some hope out there and some help. So again, I want to applaud the volunteer fire department for stepping up and helping us along with that. And that is all I have now. Anything from Craig, John?
Is that gonna be posted on our website?
I will
also?
post the information on there, but again, I ask, please contact that number. We can't really, as a town, be tied in with this and be part of it, so to speak. This is a separate entity. In this case, it'd be the Volunteer Fire Company. They're the one that will handle all of the coordination and such. It will not be coordinated through the town. Any and all direction will be received through the Malta Ridge Volunteer Fire Company. But yes, we will post their number and let folks know.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Kinda handy.
John, anything?
No, nice job putting that together.
Thank you. Roger, anything? Kristen, any updates on our parade? Beautiful, love it. All right, so nothing else? So we now have comments or questions from residents in the town. And I ask, try to limit those that want to speak to at least 3 to 5 minutes, because we might have more than just one or two tonight that want to talk. So I want to try to get everybody in. So if you do want to speak, if you just raise your hand and then just approach the podium, name, rank, and serial number. Kathy Eitzman, which hat is it?
I guess it'll be my spring hat, Malta Seniors.
We'll take that.
All right. On Wednesday, we have bingo we start selling the cards at noon. We play from 1 to 3. It's low-key bingo. You might win $3 or $4, so please bring your dollars. And we're also going to have tickets for sale that day. The Saratoga County Office of Aging and Youth is having their spring luncheon at the Saratoga Springs City Center. The theme is Wizard of Oz, so you can wear your red shoes and bring Tonto, but not the real one, not just a fake Toto. And we will have those tickets for sale from 10:30 to noon. So if you're interested in that, it's a $4 ticket for a fabulous luncheon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else have anything? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank the board initially for the opportunity to speak, and of course, thank you all for your service to the community. My name is Tom McDermott. I live at 19 Avondale Drive, right up here in the town of Malta. There's a proposal before the Planning Committee right now to have a subdivision of a nearby farm. And that subdivision will connect into Avondale via a town-owned parcel that has been designated for a road. The location of that parcel is at the end of Surrey Drive, at the junction of Surrey Drive and Avondale. What I have before me is a petition signed by the majority of the residents of Avondale who are in opposition to this road. We've had a number of the community go and solicit these signatures, and the responses from the community are fairly consistent, that in essence, this subdivision is not consistent with the fabric of our community, that being that of Avondale. Both communities are created under the guise of the same town charter. However, the differences between the two communities as proposed is dramatic. The Meadowview community is dense housing. It's approximately 60 acres with 119 homes. The average lot size in Meadowview, the proposed Meadowview, the average lot size is 0.25 acres. The Avondale lot size, on average, is 1/3 of an acre. So consequently, we have about a 1/3 smaller plot for homes in that community versus ours. More importantly, the Meadowview community, unlike Avondale, has no provision for walking trails, has no park, it has no playground, and in essence, after all said and done and the community is completed, that community will have no open space. In lieu of open space, the planning board has accepted the contention of the seller that they would preserve the view on East Line Road for more motorists commuting across that road over to the mountains in the east, the Green Mountains. This, of course, will be done at the expense of Avondale, our community. So what I'd like to present to the board is the original of the petition. And we'd like to solicit your consideration for not opening that road and preserving our community as it is. There's a meeting tomorrow night with the planning board, and at that meeting will also be heard relating to the more specific information that deals with the proposal as it stands right now. But again, thanks for your consideration, and I'd like to provide this to you.
Sure.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Weiss. I'm a resident of Malta, town of Malta. Live on Old Post Road. Been here a number of times, but the same story. so nothing's going to be new. Old Post Road tends to be neglected, I believe, by the town. We've got a section of the road that happens to be right in front of my house that has become a danger. Every year, whenever there's a snowstorm, every year, I've had multiple accidents on the same day. People sliding off the road in the same exact place. It's right in front of 153, 155 Old Post Road.
I know right where it is.
We've talked about it. This year, Roger knows, we had a town truck putting down salt that slid off the road in the exact same location that vehicles slide off the road. I'm not an engineer, but I can look at the road and see that the road has lost or is gaining ground. It's sloping towards that section of the road, and it's becoming a problem. People driving at a normal rate of speed, happens to be a little bit of ice there, they'll just drift off the road, and not a thing they can do about it. I'd like to have some consideration of that, and perhaps get some repairs done to that road, raise that road bed up to a point where we don't have that problem, or some guardrails or something to keep people from going off into the ditch. That's number one. Number two, we had a member here, Douglas Waring, probably a few of you might remember him. Had a beautiful little home at 127 Old Post Road. He passed away a number of years ago, and his family sold the home. And there's been a family move in there now that has absolutely no regard for the community. It's a mess. The people have become hoarders. They've overtaken some of the land that doesn't belong to them, and they're cutting firewood on it. They're storing junk. It's just an eyesore, and it detracts from the beauty of that area. It's a mess, and I would like to have the town look into to see what they can do to force these people to at least clean up the property and bring it back to a standard that would be beautiful like it was when Doug had it, And last but not least, the old truck issue. We had some progress a number of years ago. We had a meeting right here in this room with Kerry Warner and some people from the Highway Department, and Tim was there. We got some signage changed, and we got some words of encouragement from that the sheriff would be brought into it, that he would patrol the road and keep the large 80,000-pound tractor trailers off the road. It's marked at 8,000 pounds. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen a truck go down that road now. It's usually 15 or 20 tractor trailers a day. And then a minute and a half later, a sheriff's car go the opposite direction and just keep on going, knowing he drove right by that truck. It never bothered to turn around and go back. Maybe he was on a call, I don't know, but I'm just getting the impression that there's just absolutely no enforcement whatsoever of that law or that town ordinance that we, and I would like to bring that to the attention of the board. Hopefully, we can get the sheriff's department, state police involved to take care of those things. And with that, yes,
I missed the address. What was it, 127?
127 Old Post Road.
And Rick, before you sit down, I don't mean to put anyone on the spot here. Roger, I know you and I have spoke briefly about that section of Old Post. Is there anything that can be done there that we should look at, whether it be this year, next year, in the future at any time? Anything that could help mitigate where that problematic area is? And again, I know exactly where he's talking about. He told me, I spoke with him last year, and he said, I'll tell you right now, the very first snowstorm or ice that we get, there's gonna be cars going off the road right there, and as it was our town truck. So I just didn't know if you had any plans.
I thought about this, and you probably should engage the engineer, but, that road is a road by use, and our right-of-way is very limited. So it's gonna be a cooperation with the landowner, because we're gonna have to build up the shoulder there. Probably got, in some spots, probably be built up 2 feet.
Raj, I'm sorry, could you just explain to folks that do not know what a road by use actually means?
Road by use is technically, he owns underneath the roadbed, but the town has the roadbed. And it's usually 3 rods wide, which is like 49.5 feet. So that very limits us to our right of way, what we can do. I don't know if there's a new guy that bought that horse farm, that's the horse farm property.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's cooperative or not. That's why I'd like to engage the engineer, because it's gotta come up with a better cross slope. You know, it's basically, because of the truck traffic, and there's not much of a shoulder there, the road's going away. Rick's actually right, you know, that's the way, this winter, because it was so icy, the truck did slide off there. So, but, and, you know, I mean, maybe the answer is, if you don't wanna give, we have to put up guardrails, but we have to back up the road, to stop it from moving down the road.
Now, would that also require us to get permission from the property owner there? Okay. All right, thank you, Roger.
You can probably do an eminent domain, but I prefer trying to cooperate with the landowner.
So the first thing we should do is reach out to our engineer.
Yep.
Okay.
And Roger, just so that I'm clear, that's because the improvements more than likely would have to be outside the road.
For the right of way.
Right, so it would be on the landowner's property, so we'd need some form of easement or other agreement to access that, correct?
Grading easement.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thanks again, Roger. The other question I had, Jamie, again, not to put you on the spot, but in terms of the residents that Mr. Weiss is talking about, do we have any authority through code enforcement to address what issues he's talking about?
Well, we do, we have a complaint form that has to be filled out and signed. I believe Mr. Weiss has probably done that before, but I don't know that for certain.
He has.
It is an offending property that's been going on for some time, and again, we talk about this, we have a property maintenance code. The person gets violated, has an order to remedy, you know, you got a certain amount of days, and then you could be taken to court with a nominal fine. It's kind of that path that we talk
So
about.
step process there, pretty much? First offense, second offense type thing, or is it pretty much result in the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it'd be going to court and probably getting fined $75.
Okay.
Don't we have an injunction as an alternative in in a case where you can't get compliance? I mean, when I enforced the building code in my county, that remedy was available, in addition to proceeding in justice court. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah,
that might be an option.
I didn't review the town
Yeah.
ordinance. I didn't know that this question was coming up.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, so not to put you on the spot, but.
You should have known, Steve.
Yeah.
Should've went
But I
right-
can reach out to Jamie, and see if we have other options, but, it depends on the language of our code.
Yeah, and it's more involved to go to the Supreme Court to get an injunction against somebody. You don't want to do that unless you've got an extreme case.
I would just like to politely ask them to, try to bring it back up to the standards that it's commensurate with the community.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
We'll,
thank you.
we'll do what we can.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, right here.
I'm Cynthia Young. I live over here on Colomer. I want to talk about the project that's down back up to Avondale. First, at the last comp plan meeting, there was what we'll call a spirited discussion about this very topic. And because it was in the context of the master plan, open space is a priority not only identified as in the master plan that we're currently operating under, it's also a big priority in the master plan that you are now currently reviewing. It's a master plan in the entire state, or it's a priority in the entire state of New York, frankly, to try to protect our open space. In a perfect world, that whole piece would be farmed forever. But we don't live in a perfect world, and the reality is, right now that's zoned R1, which means it's 1 acre zoning, it's 120 acres, there could conceivably be 100 homes spread out over that hillside. This plan at least conserves half that farmland. Otherwise, we're dwindling farmland now, and it's a permanent conservation. I think that it's a good compromise. While I understand the concerns of the residents, we've had other developments where the exact same problem has come up. A new housing development, the connectivity includes a road to go from one to the other, and there's been a lot of outrage. And in the end, it doesn't really have an impact on the neighborhood. I see more of an impact for you people on pedestrians on your sidewalks trying to get to the Zim Smith Trail, which is a popular thing. So, like I say, while I understand your concerns, I think that it's important that we be mindful of the fact that we're losing open space, and there's so much pressure on development, and if we can reasonably protect a piece of property, irregardless of the view shed, it'd be maintaining a farm that otherwise we could easily lose. So that's all on that. But my other hat, like Kathy, I just want to say that our speaker for the Malta Sunrise Rotary on next Thursday will be our own Mark Hammond. And all are welcome.
Shucks.
We meet at the Ugly Rooster at 7:15 a.m. Love to have you there. We haven't invited any press yet.
Please do not.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Cynthia, were you for or against the development at the Mitchell Farm?
I am, for the most part, I'm for conserving as much as we can of that property. So I am for allowing that project to move forward.
Because you had said that you were sure that it was 100% going to be remain and be farmed. How do you know
the 60
that?
acres, I think that's part of the agreement. It's a conservation easement that Saratoga Plan has become involved in. The state of New York's probably part of it. Am I correct? And so that would be in perpetuity
Well, the question
protected
is,
land.
listen to the question. If we take 40% and develop it, and 60% is going to be farmland, you just said you guarantee us 100% is going to be farmed. How do you know that?
I didn't say it would be farm. I said it would be protected from development.
Okay.
So it would be protected from development.
And you said it would be no impact to the people there.
Didn't say there would be no impact.
I
think
wrote
that
it down when you said
I
it.
think that the impact will be more pedestrian. I mean, those people aren't gonna wanna be
The
driving.
question is, will there be an impact to the residents?
You know, do I know? What I am saying is the impact in other projects,
There will be an impact, is what you're saying.
there may be an impact.
You don't know.
I don't think that the impact will be as,
So if you don't know and you think there probably will be an impact.
I think that the more important thing is to try to preserve and protect
I
open
understand
space.
your concern, and then we also got a petition here by a bunch of whole people from Avondale. So one person's maybe not idea of what an impact is, besides a whole bunch of
I
residents.
think he did say you were old.
I will take that in consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And he did say you were old. I heard that part.
What did I say wrong? Did I say something wrong?
You said they were old.
I said all, I'm sorry. Did I say old?
Boy, that's a good tool.
I'm from Long Island. I mix up my words sometimes. Sorry
Yes,
about that.
yes, ma'am, you may speak now. Thank you.
I had to do that, sorry.
Hi, Ann Glacken. I'm 45 Avondale Drive. I'm also here to talk about the Mountain View Meadows. I'm not going to say much that Tom didn't already say, but I just wanted to make it clear, like if everybody who's here from Avondale could raise their hand, just to make it clear that there's a very large contingent that is really concerned about this. From my perspective, it's really safety. And having a large number of cars driving through our neighborhood, it's not set up for that. It's just not, that wasn't the intention of the roads when they were put in. So we're really concerned about the safety of our children, of our neighborhood, and, you know, if we can consider not putting that connector in, we don't believe that there's probably anything we can do about getting the development stopped. We understand that, and we've always been aware that that was a possibility. It's the safety of our neighborhood, it's the safety of the traffic coming through, and the reason that we're here is because we know you have an influence on whether that connector road gets built or not. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. I don't think you look that old.
I apologize if I said something wrong. My mouth talks faster than my mind.
You're not gonna live that one down.
It's gonna be more than this, all right?
You can't unring that bell, Al, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Angela Minkler, and we live at 43 Avondale Drive. And one of the biggest issues we have with everything is naturally what Tom and Ann are voicing, the concern with the traffic, the density. No matter how you look at it, you've got 60 acres and 119 homes. Whatever the farm view part is, it's still 119 homes condensed into 60 acres, and that's what we're seeing. My concern, though, is the wetlands, the water table. Over there is, it was stated at a meeting in September, 2 feet below. We have a constant stream going in the back of us. We have a pond where the ducks are. That is not supposed to be there. It wasn't there when we first moved, but it's there now, and it's getting worse every year. I don't know how that area where they want to put a road, which is squishy all the time, how it can be considered. I mean, I was in Colony for years, and you don't touch wetlands. I realize that it's no longer sacred property, but you just didn't do it. You didn't develop on wetlands for obvious reasons. You're going to put houses there with basements? Are these people that are buying into this going to know that this was very wet before they even came? I granted there's engineering and stuff that can be done, but I don't know that you're going to be able to really prevent what's natural. It's just a natural flow of the way the water goes. And that's, I just wanted to bring the wetlands issue up.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thanks. Matt Lynch, 21 Avondale Drive. I think you see a trend. And I'd be remiss if I didn't go home and tell my wife I didn't say anything, so. Hey, the residents, that they said everything spot on. But going back to when Avondale was proposed as a development, the board had to approve a subdivision. They also approved that spot where there could be a potential connector road. Think of the spirit of the idea of that development. Guess what? There are many people in the development that built initially, and myself, et cetera. There's other people that buy into the development. Every single person knows there is likely someday going to be a development. I am not against a development, a tasteful development. That's why we put you guys in charge, right? You play referee, not me. My opinion of playing referee is to put yourself in that mindset back in 2005-ish timeframe. Okay, what was considered as an expansion of this, right? Then you look at the connector road and then the road that goes out of it. I assume you guys have seen the plot plan and everything. If I put that thing in front of my 9-year-old son and say, which way are you going to go in and out? There's one answer. One answer only. That other road going up the east line, that's token. It is alike. If you have to go out this way, go this way. But it is going to shoehorn everything down our road. Not in the spirit of what was originally planned and thought of as a connector road. It's a great idea for a connector road, by the way. I'm not against a connector road, but it has to be done the right way. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Yes, in the back.
Apparently I missed the comedy right before I came in.
Don't worry, I'll speak again and you'll have it. All right?
I'm Jim Thoman. I live at 6 Candlewood Drive. I think I might be the lone representative from our actual HOA. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Chris. I didn't see you there. I guess because of the scuttlebutt, I want to also get an idea of what the timeline was, because when it finally came up that this was going to happen, it was a planning board issue. And it's still a planning board issue. It's still a planning
Still
board
is,
issue.
yes.
Now, I don't know the actual regulations and politics of how all those things get considered, but most people, when they sell off a part of their property, want to change how it was originally, needs to go to the town. So I was then later on told that somebody in the town, that there was a town board at one point that voted on it, if it was going to be changed into a development, that was already approved. And that's why it was then going to be a planning board issue. Is that, am I right on that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. All right, so that kind of kills that rumor then.
Well, just so we're talking the same language here, back many years ago when Councilman Klotz was on the board with me, I'm the only one up here who was on the town board at the time, that parcel in question came up at tax sale, and our planning staff said, hey, you ought to grab it because it's potentially there to connect into an adjoining development. That would have been the full extent of the conversation we had. And we said, why not do that? It's cheap, we'll grab it. Who knows, it keeps our options open.
So obviously the
town owns the land.
Yeah.
We're getting some advice from our attorney about what the town board's, rights and responsibilities are.
So aside from the connector road, it really wasn't a transformative issue enough to become up to the town to a vote.
No, in 2004, when Avondale was being constructed, back around that time period, there's actually maps out laying out the whole area, the whole Avondale area, and that is in there as a future connector.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the original idea from that connector road, from my understanding, was that if it was going to be part of Avondale, and then that was kind of abandoned. I don't know why it was abandoned. Who knows?
From what I gather, excuse me, John, from what I was told from members of the planning board, that was discussed back then for that development, and in keeping with the then comprehensive master plan, that was put in there for connectivity uses. So there was, I'm one of the folks that thought that it was like an afterthought, as John said, that, we thought, well, hey, we'll grab it. That was actually planned.
Okay.
And that was put in there for that purpose during that time period. And that's
possibly-
what a lot of folks don't know that,
Yeah.
but that is the truth. I saw it,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, today, and it's written down.
I'm just wondering if it was originally intended that Marini was going for it in case he was able to get the farmland and then expand.
That I
out.
couldn't tell you.
So that's what-
And
I mean, that's
just
good.
like there's contingency plans, just like there was a contingency plan to have exit 11A
Yeah, yeah.
to go through. That never happened because we decided to expand underneath the bridge and do circles, so the plan had changed. So plans do change from, especially from 2004, and Avondale really wasn't built until 2006.
No-
So I
nobody
understand your
knew.
concern.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knew it was a good planning practice. Nobody knew the hundreds of homes that would be
Yeah.
developed just over the line on East Line Road and all the traffic that that would bring with it and the ramifications that that would have here. Nobody knew. It was just good planning to do it.
And the unique aspect of it, though, is that it was approved, it's fine and dandy, but the thing is now you're going to be connecting two possible developments that have two separate HOAs, their own fees, their own members. You're not expanding Avondale. And you're gonna basically, and again, we've all seen the site plan, it looks like you're gonna dump everybody, if that connector road is approved, nobody's going to Ballston Spa to work. Everybody works in either Saratoga or Albany, and they're gonna take the Northway. And I don't know of anywhere around that I've ever seen of two developments, private developments, that have two separate HOAs that pay their own fees that actually are that the main connector is going to connect one to public roads by going through the other development. And even that, I mean, even if it was the sidewalk just aspect of it, because the road, again, we've talked about the structural issues of the water. Even if you connect the two sidewalks, then you're now telling Avondale residents that they are probably gonna have to maintain a new sidewalk. So that could be an increase in fees and things like that. I mean, I'm not against connecting neighborhoods, but I just find it odd to connect two neighborhoods that aren't really neighborhoods, they're private developments. But there is a nice way of wanting to have Malta and Exit 11 and everything be interconnected with walking and all that stuff. But also too, if anybody's seen the site plan, I mean, there's no amenities for this development. So it's basically saying, well, I know it's not legal for realtors to do it, but you'd be stupid not to show pictures of Avondale when you're trying to sell those houses.
So I think one of the important things to think about in the process here is that a lot of the discussion points that you're sharing are really, really important for the planning board to hear.
Yeah.
Because they're the entity that is really determining how this is laid out and approved. The town board's role in this is just pursuant to the road because we own the town, it's town property. So, the town board doesn't approve this development. The town board doesn't say yes or no. So that planning board is gonna be the right place for it.
Yeah.
But, the design standards and things like that, that's not something that we're gonna, be
Yeah, I
approving
understand.
individually.
I know what you guys are gonna be voting on, but I also want what I'm feeling, what the other residents are feeling, to be as public as possible so that even it gets to the planning commission. Because the way these planning boards and meetings sometimes work is people can't go, so the more information, the better. The more everybody
Absolutely.
knows. It's not a matter of what you guys are voting on aside from the connector road, but I just want these.
And
these
I think
thoughts
it's
out.
also important to understand that, state law precludes the town board from trying to influence the decision of the planning
Yeah,
board.
no, but
So,
it's also residents, too.
I know I personally make it a practice that I try not to talk to planning board members about specific projects because I don't want to break the law and I don't want the town to be subject to litigation as a result. So, you're certainly more than welcome to share your thoughts here, but the planning board is really where that's going to be the most important place for that input.
And the last thing I want to, aside from the connector road, is there's been, a little bit of a scuttlebutt of the town being upset with certain Avondale residents because of other issues, whether it be snow removal or PVC pipe issues or anything like that. So I don't want to see Avondale get painted with a broad brush of how its residents are.
I can tell you right now that does not happen and is not happening.
Okay,
No way.
okay.
No
All right, 'cause
way.
that was also a concern by a couple residents to me that I didn't know.
I
anything
can
about,
tell you
so-
that that is without merit.
Okay, good, all right, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have anything? Yes, ma'am. Yes, you do. Do you need help?
You gotta get it recorded like I
I'm
get
old,
recorded.
so I probably didn't hear everything, but I just want clarification. You're saying that that road that was there was always there, that the town had that? I'm a little confused. 'cause
No,
I was
the
under
town-
the impression Bob Marini owned it, and Bob didn't pay his taxes.
That is
That's
correct.
right.
Okay, so the town, it was an afterthought that you were actually right
No,
then when you
no.
said you thought we should grab it.
Nope.
When the subdivision was approved, that was shown as a connector road.
Right,
The lot was never sold, it was retained by the developer. He decided not to pay taxes on it. He
Right.
went to foreclosure and the town acquired it,
right.
thinking,
Because we went to the auction block that night
Right.
about that property, and we were told it was pulled. Now, I understand that's routine, and that's fine, but I just wanted clarification, the way you said it. I was like, this wasn't an afterthought. This was, Bob had this, Bob owned it, he didn't pay the taxes. My gut is telling me, and I'm probably off there in La La Land, that Bob realized there was some serious water issues over
no,
there.
again, what I said was when this was presented to the town board, of which
Okay.
I was a member and Councilman Klotz was, hey, this was laid out as a connector
Okay.
road, it's going to
All right. I just wanted
foreclosure, why doesn't the
clarification.
town grab it? And that was basically the extent of the discussion. We had no knowledge about what might happen next door or this particular development.
Okay, I was
Yes.
just curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, you only get one.
This is the last one. What is the time frame on when this road is going in? Is this road, if the connector road goes through, which I was told it will, if this connector road does go through, despite water issues, whatever, is this gonna be done prior to the construction of all these homes, or is it gonna be after?
That's
Are we gonna
something-
be interrupted by all of the construction vehicles that are gonna come through?
That's something that we can't answer. My gut would tell me no, that wouldn't.
Okay.
But I'd also like to address, you said you've heard that it's gonna go through. I have
We were
not.
told, I was specifically told it's a done deal and the engineers will figure out the. water
That is
issues.
not true.
Okay, that's what I was told.
That is not a done deal.
Okay.
None of this is. We're still very preliminary because it's going to the planning board. It's,
Right,
those
and
are
I
the
understand
folks,
that.
as Tim said, they're the ones that deal with this.
Right.
There is nothing, I can assure you, that is a done deal.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And I'm done.
One more question.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
It was mentioned earlier that the remaining lands of the Mitchell property would be kept in perpetuity as open space. The last agricultural conservative easement I had didn't state that. Has there, maybe Stephen, you can help?
I'm not the attorney for the planning board, but I was involved in some meetings, just sitting in, so I'd be familiar with what's going on. And as I understand it, there's a conservation easement that was actually submitted today to the planning board for initial review that would conserve those acres in perpetuity. So there'd be an actual recorded conservation easement, as previously mentioned by others, that Saratoga Plan has been involved in, but the purpose of that is to make it clear that those acres that are not being developed, roughly 60 acres, are going to be preserved pursuant to that conservation easement.
Okay, the most recent agricultural conservative easement I have states that the term of the easement would run with the land unless terminated or modified by written agreement by the two parties. Two parties being the landowner
Yeah.
and the town.
I don't
So-
know the agreement that you're looking at,
It was the
and,
agreement that you were at the meeting when they had an open session here about a month ago. The date was March 9th.
right, there was no agreement at that time. What they had submitted to the planning staff was language that said, we'll conserve it. And the pushback from the attorneys in the room was, no, there's gonna be an actual conservation agreement. And this is a sample that's typically used for these and approved, by the state. And what was suggested at that time and what is being reviewed is an actual conservation easement that would require those lands to be preserved in perpetuity.
Okay, that's what's on the table as of today?
That's what's on the table to be reviewed by the planning board, correct?
All right. I'll see.
And the attorneys involved.
Great.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask a question?
No.
I'm older than you.
Wait a second, let me, go ahead, Craig.
To our planning staff, I got one question referring to that second access. Is that required by law?
So the way it's laid out right now, it meets New York State Fire Code. It has to do with the number of units and the length of the roadway.
Can that secondary access go elsewhere by law?
It could.
As long as there's more than one, unless the
Well,
buildings
it
are,
has to have two, but it doesn't have to end up on the same street? Is that true?
Yes.
So we can have two accesses on to East Line.
unless the buildings are sprinklered. If the residents are sprinklered, the way I understand it, it negates the
don't have to
need
have that
for the
second
second one, correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
There's a question.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
When I heard about, I'm sorry, Sandy Roberts, 9 Candlewood Drive in Avondale. When I heard about the traffic study, it was the Zoom meeting, it was the planning board Zoom meeting, okay? And I apologize, I can't attend tomorrow night. And I've worked in a planning and zoning building department for 25 years down south. Okay, so you have, on the northern part of the parcel, you have the long driveway coming in, street coming in, and then you have all the houses. No one ever mentioned, they kept talking about, well, the people without this access would have to go all the way down Round Lake Road, East Line to Round Lake Road to get to 87, okay? No one mentioned Miller Road. And I use that a lot, okay? So if there was a secondary access road for this new development, which I'm not totally against, and I think everyone in Avondale realizes that this is going to be built, it's the connection. Why can't there be the other access road on the south side? I don't know if there can be a road through the conservation land that I don't know New York state laws. I worked in another state. So you have one on the north side of the property, and you have one at the south boundary of the property. And people don't have to go down to Round Lake Road on East Line. They can go to Miller Road if they want to get to Ruley Road and then out to the circle. But the connector road, you're talking garbage trucks, you're talking a lot of traffic. And I don't know if there was another traffic study done, but the one that I had heard about didn't seem to be very complete. So I would like to see the traffic study, have another look at it.
I haven't even seen that traffic study.
And
it's
a
good
lot of
to
the stuff,
ask-
that you're referring to, like, we haven't seen at all. I mean, this issue, the first I heard about
Yeah.
it was this weekend in an email. So, I mean, you'll see there's nothing on our agenda tonight to be addressed here. This is before the planning board. I haven't seen any of these site plans.
Does the town board
I-
usually see these things?
No.
No.
That's in state law, the
I know.
planning board has a different role
It's
than
very
us.
interesting to me that the people we elect, you, do not have the final say in.
I would strongly encourage you to contact your state legislators and
I
ask
agree.
them to change the law so that
in
that
approving
could happen.
something which is exactly opposite of where I came from.
Ma'am,
So the final one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a little bit more insight because before becoming supervisor,
Right.
I was actually on the planning board.
Okay.
So when this project first came before the planning board, I was still on it and actually was involved until here I am here in this seat now. So that's why I'm privy or
Okay.
I'm knowledgeable of some more of the backstory and some more of the inner workings of this project for that reason. I walked the farm with the Mitchells, looked at pretty much every square foot of where they want to put this development. And along with that, I could see that, truthfully, that they really don't want to even put this in there. They really don't want to do it, but because for their own reasons and without getting into their business, they have several areas that they farm throughout this area. And sometimes you have to liquidate some of your assets to make things work, and farming's not easy
Money,
today.
Right, I understand.
This they tried to do the most minimal way as possible. And so I actually saw that, and I could sense that it was not put on. They really did not want to sell any of this farm to a developer. But their goal was to keep it as least impactful as possible and work with the planning department and try to achieve some of what our master plan is calling for in terms of, as Cynthia Young stated earlier, open space and maintaining some of those rural areas that we're losing. And
But
all of
least
these things
Least impactful to who?
to the town in general, and that's where it's difficult, because I don't want people to think that I'm pushing to make this project happen, because I'm not. As Tim said, I'm not involved with the planning department and the planning board to try to push anything along. But I do know where this started, in terms of the first talks, if you will, with the developer, with the property owner, and again, walking that farm. And because I'm aware of what people in this town have been calling for, aside from Avondale, people have been calling for the preservation as much as we possibly can within this town, throughout the town, whether it be on East Line Road or any areas. Because I also chaired the Open Space Committee for 2.5 years. We really began on that committee to actively pursue PDRs, the purchase of development rights within our town, as a means of doing the same thing, preserving what we can that's left of the town of Malta, as we all know, is shrinking at a remarkable rate because of development. And one of the things through the PDR process, what we are looking to obtain through open space, and Barbara Connor is here tonight, she's now our chair. We're looking for, and we're hungry for conservation easements, because
we think
that is the only true way. A lot of people will throw away Forever Wild pretty loosely and not really knowing there's not too many ways to make something forever wild. Conservation easement is one of those ways to make it forever wild. So now, just myself speaking as supervisor, I'm tasked with, okay, do I listen to the entire voice of Malta, which is my job as supervisor, the way I see it, in maintaining rural character, trying to keep, in this case, 60 acres of farmland where it will still be farmed. The family plans on engaging in agro-tourism in the future and keeping what we have there. Or do I say, there's a neighborhood here? And I'm not going to lie, it's a tough balancing act, because I'm also responsible for the folks in Avondale. So I'm struggling with this. I'm still looking for resolution that will result in that happy medium that I've talked about many times in this seat. And I'm hoping, I've encouraged folks to look to see what we can do to where both sides can walk away and say, you know what, this will work.
Talking to residents in Avondale, it's the number one concern is the connector road.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, that's the number one.
And I
concern.
understand that. I do.
Yes, I think we're past the point of monetary gain. I think that's going to happen regardless of who wants to keep what of farmland and who's going to farm anything after monetary gain to keep farming something with a view shed. So those are assumptions of what the monetary gain is, what the farmland is going to be farmed, and another assumption also is the traffic study. 'Cause
I've got to interrupt you just for a minute. I apologize. What is an assumption?
you're saying that they're selling the land not for monetary gain.
I didn't say that. They're selling the land because they have other areas that they're farming and they need that money. I
Then-
guess that's a monetary gain.
It's an assumption they'd be taking a loss. That's why I said it's an assumption.
Okay.
We don't know if they're gonna gain or lose. I'm gonna take an assumption. If we're putting 119 houses there, they're getting a little bit more than the crop. All right? So, and the traffic study, I agree with you too. I would like to see how that is done for a hypothetical development that hasn't existed yet, and who is buying houses, who owns cars, and then, who did this traffic study, what, 2018? What
I
was
don't
reading?
know. I have not seen the
So
traffic
maybe an
study.
updated traffic study might be, in order.
Yeah, but just remember, Al, that
That's
again,
planning
these are
board
things that
issues.
are going to the planning board, not this
Correct.
board. There's nothing before this board right now, for you to review. We're hearing-
I'm not looking for a decision.
Right.
I'm just conversing with her.
Right, but-
Her concerns, I understand your concerns, and
I'm just trying to give the
acknowledging.
board advice that there's a separate process, which is the planning process. And, our role is very limited in that process, and we want to engage our citizens, so, you're fully informed of what's happening in your town, but we just need to be aware of what the board can and can't do.
Yes,
And
thank
just
you,
for the
Steve.
record, I want to follow the law and the processes that are on the books, not circumvent or influence
The
any
only-
outcome.
The only thing the board can do right now, and has to decide, is whether the road
Correct.
is going to be the connector road.
You are correct.
Exactly.
And there is not yet a proposal on that.
Excuse me?
And there's not yet a proposal
There's been
on
no
that that I've
proposal.
seen.
And the New York law, law calls for another form of egress.
Correct.
That's what I just started with when I came
Mm-hmm.
up here, is that I see the one on the north side of the property, and I don't know why there can't be one on the south side in lieu of the connector road.
There's no land that's controlled by the town or the developer that would allow that road. That's the short answer.
But it's still in the whole planning process.
The lands along Miller Road are all privately owned.
No, the south side.
You're talking
of
back
the
on East Line
parcel
Road.
That is.
Oh, back
the
out?
She's talking back on
conservation.
East Line Road,
Okay,
John.
I'm sorry.
Just like the one coming in
Well,
from East Line's the
They
north,
could do that.
then the other one would be on the the far south, the property line. It wouldn't be on the property line.
We
That's what
don't,
I'm talking
yeah, we don't control that. Alls we control is this. And the developer has to, developers represented here tonight, they have to decide what they want to do, because this is a little bit of a dance we're doing right now. The developer is looking at the town board saying, gosh, maybe this isn't gonna go, or maybe it will go. What do we do as a developer with the planning board? Well, that's up to them. They may decide the planning board may condition their approval on this connector road being approved by the town board. There's no clear, next step here.
I was just putting my thoughts out there, and thank
Yeah.
you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Whenever a new road goes in, does the town board require a traffic study?
We have to accept roads through a dedication process that's in the town code. The traffic, unless it's a planned development district, the traffic study analysis is all looked at by the planning board.
Okay, so then through the planning board, that's where we influence to get a more independent
Yeah,
traffic study opposed to the one
but
that
that
I
doesn't
saw.
preclude us from considering it.
From you
and
considering it, right,
Yeah.
it's just not mandated.
I was only mentioning because I was considering it and to educate
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah,
That's it.
okay. I just didn't know if any point during the process it was mandated prior to putting a road in, so.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Any board members? Okay. Thank you very much, folks. On the agenda tonight, we have one action item. It is to acknowledge the the hiring of a heavy equipment operator, Andrew Castle. And Jennifer, if you could please read that resolution, I would appreciate it.
Acknowledge highway equipment operator appointment. It is resolved that the town board of the town of Malta hereby acknowledges the appointment by town highway superintendent Roger Crandall of Andrew Castle as heavy equipment operator as of April 21st, 2022, to replace William Priest, who has resigned. And it is further resolved that the newly appointed heavy equipment operator will be paid at the rate of $21.50 per hour in 2022.
So moved?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. It passed. Okay, for our meeting next week, on our agenda, we'll have a presentation from our audit, Ken Claflin of Cusack and Company. They will present their report. Next on the agenda, we'll discuss the New York State DOT use and occupancy permit, Route 9 and 67, under the form-based code. And basically, there's a little bit of a change in how DOT now is handling right-of-ways and such. They're looking for a sale of a $1 purchase rather for a right-of-way on behalf of the town, which, as I understand it, would basically result in the town being responsible for what was once responsible through DOT, and perhaps maybe property owners in the future, not really sure. Floria or Jamie, any more insight you can provide other than myself, who doesn't really know an awful lot about that?
So I was contacted by DOT, I was having a conversation with the DOT engineer about a month ago regarding another issue. Came up that they will no longer issue use and occupancy permits to private entities, which they normally would. So when you have development, somebody wants to put in trees or lights within the town the New York State DOT right of way. So I asked for clarification from DOT, and they did provide us that. Basically, it's in the town of Malta, we have our form-based code with complete streets, street lights, trees, and so forth, and the sidewalk. A lot of that does frequently get put in the state right of way, sidewalks, definitely, and that street presence of trees. So in order for the DOT to permit this, they have asked the town of Malta to be the permittee, basically. So we need to enter into an agreement with DOT rather than going to the private entity. And that's how that came. They basically said they're not doing private entities anymore. They'll only deal with the town of Malta. And for us to implement our form-based code, which has complete streets aspect to it, it is behooves the town of Malta to enter in this agreement with New York State DOT. We can still, through approval, still try to negotiate with the property owners, developers to maintain street trees and things like that. But in the process, we have the town, DOT only wants to deal with the town.
So basically, we don't have a choice, unfunded mandate type thing. Awesome, love it. Steve, do you have anything to weigh in? It's only $1.
No, I mean, I think the issue there is for us to approve these projects to be compliant with our form-based code, we would need to enter those agreements, or we're kind of in a catch-22. If we don't enter the agreement, they can't install the necessary streetscapes to comply with the project as approved in the form-based code. So it becomes this back and forth. So what we can do is enter into the agreement with DOT, and then through the planning process or other conditions require that those be passed on to the developer or owner or business, associated with those improvements. So I think it'd be a two-part thing. We would have an agreement with the state in order to get the approvals to put them in there right away, and then we separate agreement with the developer or owner to say, yeah, you're gonna take care and maintain these and be responsible for those. Having said that, you know, there's other things that homeowners and developers, whether it's stormwater or whether it's sidewalks or whether it's snow removal, that they don't do. So there may be some requirements for town action on the future on these things to enforce those.
Thank you, Steve. So we'll be discussing that a little bit further next week. Next on the agenda would be the ambulance service agreement update. Steve, once again, if you have anything.
Yeah, I've been talking with the EMS's attorney. Unfortunately, this afternoon, he called and I was in another meeting, so we didn't get to resolve it. But we're hopeful to have a revised agreement to the board, you know, for potentially next week. I'll try tomorrow to hammer that out and.
So we're
get it.
gaining ground on
Yeah,
that?
we're gaining ground, and based after the town board meeting, it's just a matter of tweaking a few things.
Right.
So,
Thank you, Steve.
you're welcome.
Next on the agenda would be to appoint an actuary for post-employee benefits, and I spoke with Kevin a little bit about that. Kev, do you have anything you would like to add at this time? Our comptroller?
This is the actuary we've used in the past for this service. We have to have an actuarial calculation of our post-employment liability every 2 years. This actuary has done it the last 4 years. And the name of the company is Jefferson Solutions Incorporated. And they're proposing a fee of $2,950.
Thank you, Kevin. Next on the agenda will be the Malta Ridge Volunteer Fire Company Service Award Program. We have, or had rather, 17 firefighters eligible for that award in 2021.
17, I think that number's a little short.
A little short, there's more than that?
It's like 34, double that,
Oh, great,
okay? It was 2 columns, so I'm thinking it's 34.
okay,
About 34 volunteers. Oh, yeah, I see it now.
great, yep. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
And also, the next on the agenda will be the Malta Ambulance Corps Service Award Program for 2021. And as I understand it, unless it's changed, there were no volunteers that qualified, but it should be noted that that's primarily due to the fact that most of their personnel are actually paid and not volunteer as they once were. Next on the agenda will be the Maltaville Water Assistance Grant application. We had one request at 21 Maltaville Road. Next on the agenda will be budget transfers. Once again, Kevin.
I'm still looking at the financial statements to determine if
Okay.
any are needed at this point.
Great. Any other town business that anyone has? Any additional comments from anyone from the public? Any department heads? Board members? Okay, at this time, I'd like to adjourn and move into an executive session to discuss personnel. Motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you.